I'm going to start by just saying to the folks who are participating online that this is the first time we're doing this. So please, if we could beg your forgiveness and patience as we muddle through a little bit, and in particular me, as this is new to all of us, and I'm going to be toggling back and forth between different windows. So we're going to go ahead and get started and start with a welcome, and that is welcome to the Planning Commission meeting. This meeting is being held via Zoom conference call due to the COVID-19 crisis. Members of the public may participate by following the instructions listed on the agenda. You may also view and listen to the meeting on live stream, cable TV, Granicus, and YouTube. If you would like to provide public comment, you have two methods to provide public comment. All members of the public will remain on mute until the individual identifies they would like to speak and you are unmuted. Following roll call during summary of hearing procedure, we will review how the public may provide comment during today's session. So I'm going to go ahead and do roll call. Is Michelle Yesney here?
Yes.
Is Commissioner Oliverio here?
Yes.
Is Commissioner Allen present?
Present.
Commissioner Griswold?
Yes.
And Commissioner Caballero?
Here.
Great. So now we're going to move to the summary of hearing procedures. If you would like to provide public comment, you have two methods to identify to provide public comment. All members of the public will remain on mute until the individual identifies they would like to speak and you're unmuted. For participants who joined electronically and have audio input available on your computer or smartphone, you can use the raise hand feature in Zoom during the agenda item you would like to speak to. Keep your raise hand feature on until planning support staff identify your turn to speak. During the meeting, please call 408-535-3505 or email planning support staff at sanjose.gov and identify your name that is listed on Zoom. Identify your name and phone number and what item or items you would like to comment on. Planning staff support will identify you by name when it is your turn to speak, and at that time you will be unmuted and can provide comment for the allotted time. If you exceed your allotted time, you may be muted so that we can move on to the next speaker. The procedure for this hearing is as follows. After the staff report, applicants and appellants may make a 5-minute presentation. City staff will call out names of the public who identified the items they want to speak to. You may identify yourself by the raised hand feature on Zoom, or you may call 408-535-3505 or email planning support staff at sanjoseca.gov to identify your name, phone number, and what items you would like to speak on the submitted speaker cards in the order received. I don't know that the submitted speaker cards part is still applicable. As your name is called, city staff will unmute you to speak. After we confirm your audio is working, your allotted time will begin. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. Speakers using a translator will have 4 minutes. After the public testimony, the applicant and appellant may make closing remarks for an additional 5 minutes. Planning commissioners may ask questions of the speakers. Response to commissioner questions will not reduce the speaker's time allowance. Staff will unmute the speaker to respond to the commissioner. The public hearing will then be closed and the Planning Commission will take action on the item. The Planning Commission may request staff to respond to public testimony, ask questions, and discuss the item. If you challenge these land use decisions in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at this public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. The Planning Commission's action on rezonings, pre-zonings, general plan amendments, and code amendments is only advisory to the City Council. The City Council will hold public hearings on these items. Section 20.120.400 of the Municipal Code provides the procedures for legal protests to the City Council on rezonings and pre-zonings. The Planning Commission's action on conditional use permits is appealable to the City Council in accordance with Section 20.100.220 of the Municipal Code. That is the summary of hearing procedures. And next, we will go ahead to public comment. And this is the time on the agenda where people from the public can comment on items that are not already on the agenda. So I'll go ahead and kick it over to staff to allow anyone to speak who is in the queue to do this.
As the chair mentioned, we will be letting the public speak based on 3 categories: those who identified before that they'd like to speak, those who are raising their hand in Zoom to speak, and those who are contacting us during the meeting. For public comment, agenda item 2, we have no members of the public who have identified they'd like to speak. And currently, I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand, and nobody has contacted us during this meeting to speak. If that changes, we'll let you know. But again, they might ask to speak about later items. So with that, there's no public comment.
Great. So moving on to agenda item number 3. There are no deferrals and removals from the calendar. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to item number 4, which is the consent calendar. And the consent calendar items are considered to be routine and will be adopted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a request is made by a member of the Planning Commission staff or the public to have an item removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. So at this point, I want to go ahead and open it up to see if we can approve the consent calendar or if anyone wants to remove one of these items.
Mr. Chair, staff has an update on items number 4A and 4B. Mr. Chair, staff has an update on items number 4A and 4B. Alex, can staff go ahead and make those verbal updates? Alex, can staff go ahead and make those verbal updates?
I'm sorry,
So
Robert, I
Alex,
was getting.
do you know which staff to unmute, or is that the problem?
Sylvia, are you able to speak?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so this is Sylvia Doe with Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. The project manager, Michelle Flores, for item 4B, would like to provide an update. Staff does not have any updates for item 4A.
Yes. Good evening, Madam Chair. Michelle Flores, Planning Project Manager. Staff would like to provide an update on and add a condition to item 4B. We'd like to add a condition to the resolution stating the following. During the improvement plan stage, Public Works will work with the applicant and city arborist to preserve at least 2 of the existing ordinance-sized oak trees. Thank you.
All right, so Alex, I would ask if we have any raised hands to indicate whether anyone wants to pull any item from consent.
So, Chair, you can address each of the commissioners with their hands raised.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how I figure that out. Ah, okay, there we go. So Alex, I see at the top that I have, it looks like there are 2 hands raised, and I'm not able to see who those people are.
Oliverio
here we
and
go.
Griswold.
Here we go. All right, sorry. Commissioner Oliverio.
Hi, since there are no speakers on the items, I would just move to approve the consent calendar for staff's recommendations for the items.
There's a motion, and I see that Commissioner Griswold has her hand raised as well.
I was actually hoping that we could pull items 4D and 4E, but otherwise I would, I guess, second, maybe with a friendly amendment of approving the remainder of the consent calendar.
So let's go ahead and pull for items 4D and E, did you say, Commissioner Griswold?
Yeah.
And then Commissioner Oliverio, would you like to then make a motion for the balance of the items?
Yes, move the balance of the items, please.
Is there a second?
I would second. That's Melanie.
Great, and I see that I have some hands raised, and I'm trying to figure out, Alex, can you clarify, do people need to take their hand down, or does that happen?
Who seconded, please?
Alex, can you clarify, do people need to?
So we do have requests for a comment on item 4E. So for right now, for the items that were pulled off, those we can open up individually and ask anyone who is currently on Zoom if they would like to speak about the items that were pulled off. So we'll go through it, and for each individual item, let's reintroduce it for request of public comment.
All right, so we do have a motion on the floor to adopt the consent calendar without 4D and E. And so I believe at this point I need to take a roll call vote. Is that right?
Yes, you
Correct.
do.
Okay, so I'll go through folks. Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Bonilla. Is Commissioner Bonilla there?
He is. It sounds like, it looks like his voice isn't working, but he's got a thumbs up.
Okay. To the legal counsel, is that okay?
If we've got someone viewing, a thumbs up, sure. And, we could ask Commissioner Bonilla by phone also, but it's going to have to work. I don't think let's see what the vote is in the end and see if it matters.
Okay. Commissioner Caballero.
Aye.
Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliverio.
Aye.
Commissioner Yesney.
Aye.
And Commissioner Ballard, myself, I vote aye. All right. Our first motion passed via Zoom. Congratulations, everybody. So let's go ahead and move to item 4D, and we'd start with a staff report.
Hello, can everyone see and hear me? All right, so I'm going to share my screen in a bit. Can you see the slide deck in front of you right now?
No.
Okay, hold on one second. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so if everyone can see it, is everyone ready?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I guess we'll get started. So hello, my name is David Ying. I'm with the San Jose Citywide Housing Team within Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement, and I'll be walking you through item PP 20-009, the density bonus update and ministerial approval ordinance. So since in the past couple of years, as the housing crisis has worsened, the state legislature has increasingly seen the local development process as an impediment to the production of housing and affordable housing in particular. So this has led to the rise of so-called by right ministerial approvals under certain conditions. When we talk about by right approvals, that means that the land use is automatically permitted in specified zones. Within these laws, these are generally multifamily zones and mixed-use zones where multifamily uses are allowed. Non-residential zones that allow multifamily uses are included as well. When we talk about ministerial approval, that means that staff is only reviewing projects against objective development standards. We're no longer involving any sort of subjective judgment. So if a project meets all of the criteria, then it must be approved. If you saw the staff in the staff memo, I will say that there's a slight error. AB 2162 was signed in 2018, not 2017. That's a mistake on my part. So I apologize for that. Let's go through the ordinance changes that we're looking at. So the first thing that we do is that we update the use tables to reflect what state law requires us to include as uses by right. So things like, permanent supportive housing under AB 2162, and then low barrier navigation centers. Those two are made uses by right as state law requires, and also we're consistent with the general plan. So what that means is that things like whether or not that is in a mixed use configuration or how much percentage of the housing has to be supportive housing, those will be consistent with the general plan and state law both. The other thing is the update of definitions of permanent supportive housing. Previously, that was connected to, supportive housing was considered a residential care and service facility. It's not quite like it, of course, but when there were fewer supportive housing projects, it made more sense to consider them together just because of some of the similarities that they had. Now that we have more projects and state law requires permanent supportive housing to be by right, that definition doesn't really fit anymore. The second major change is the expanded density bonus. The first thing that we do is that we increase the maximum number of concessions or incentives in line with state law as required by AB 1763. The second thing is that that setback incentives can now be used in these additional zoning districts. Before, the incentives only apply to residential zoning districts, but we also saw that a lot of projects that were in those other districts were requesting setbacks independent of that. So it makes sense to align the two just for both applicants and staff's sake. And then finally, we also provide an alternate timing for regulatory agreements. Currently, we require that a regulatory agreement has to be approved concurrently with planning approval, but that is not standard practice in most other cities in California. Elsewhere, regulatory agreements are usually done between planning and building approval, and that difference in timing has been an issue that's been raised by developers that affects their ability to get things like financing and other things in order. We don't believe there are legal issues that arise from bringing this timing in line with other cities. So we provide this option to bring us more in line with other cities and also hopefully encourage the production of more affordable housing. Finally, we create a new ministerial approval process that's codified. We already have projects that have been both reviewed and approved under ministerial approval, but there's no fixed process within our ordinance to do so. And we believe that these changes, in addition to obviously codifying what's already in place in state law, will hopefully make things a bit more convenient for both staff and applicants. The first thing we do under this is that we tie all of the ministerial approval conditions to state law. So if state law is amended down the line, we won't have to go back in and change it. Second is that we create a new standardized application forms. Right now, we are using the existing planning application forms, but the consequence of that is that in order to determine the eligibility for these different ministerial approvals, staff has to go into the plan set and the other submissions and then manually see if it is eligible or not. What this form will do is that it will gather the needed information to determine eligibility. And so that's all right there. So that will reduce effort on our part. And then finally, we have a 3-year time limit and standard permit conditions in the ordinance itself. The time limit comes from SB 35 and it's applied to other approvals. We think this makes sense because state law, if the goal of state law is to expedite housing production, then it makes sense to have these projects underway and completed in a timely fashion. So this brings us to what we'd like you to do. The first thing is that you consider the determination of consistency. This is possible because this ordinance doesn't involve approving any individual development projects. Those will require environmental review as they are proposed. And then second, that you recommend that the City Council approve this ordinance. Okay, that concludes my presentation, and I am here to answer any other questions that you might have.
So at this point, we would go to the public for comment. So Alex, is there, oh, let me see. We have one hand raised, and that's from Commissioner Griswold, but I guess I just want to double check with Alex that we don't have any folks from the public who want to speak on this item.
Nobody identifying that they'd like to speak before this meeting. We don't have any attendees with a raised hand, and nobody has contacted us during the meeting. So there is no public comment.
Great. So Commissioner Griswold.
Hey, so I just have a few questions about the new proposals. One, I want to applaud San Jose actually implementing this. But on the supportive housing and the low barrier navigation centers, I was curious about the definition, the state definition, and how that would square with dwelling unit restrictions if there's that type of dwelling unit restrictions under the general plan.
So for the, at least for AB 2162, so that's permanent supportive housing, the law is structured in a way that the units have to, the dwelling spaces have to be units, so that wouldn't be an issue with supportive housing. With navigation centers, I'm not quite sure how exactly they would be processed. If I remember correctly, we do have mechanisms to sort of convert bedroom counts or like bed counts into units. I'm not exactly certain of it. So, yeah.
And so that sort of dovetailed into a second question that I've got. Sorry, I'm going to try and put this closer to my, so you don't hear my kids in the background.
Okay.
But just, you know, and I think in as much as we can, trying to move towards the ability to create more beds and more units, I would just encourage us to take a broader view and maybe not be as tied towards the dwelling unit restrictions that are there, because I think that a lot of these units are likely to be smaller units, and so they're really not going to have the same sort of impact as, say, having a bunch of 2-bedroom apartments on a particular site. And I guess this dovetails into another question, which would be, how are the parking requirements going to be considered for these types of uses? I saw that we had some discussion of the parking requirements as it relates to incentives, but have we thought through what the parking would be for these uses for low barrier navigation centers or for the supportive housing?
So as far as parking is concerned, there are certain requirements in state law regarding parking. So for example, I can double check this right now, but I believe that in AB 2162, there isn't, well, our ability to apply parking requirements is greatly constrained. Let me see. Okay, yeah, so if the supportive housing development is located within half a mile of a public transit stop, the city can't impose any minimum parking requirements for the units occupied by supportive housing residents. That's as one example. I don't believe there's something similar in AB 101. I can double check for the navigation centers. Okay, yeah, there isn't any parking like preemption requirement for the navigation centers.
Okay. Then on the incentives and the number of incentives that were being provided, I had sort of a little bit confused by, let me just see, I'm just going to try and go to the sheet that I think it was on the 20 point, I think it was on page 45 of the packet, so 20.190060. And when we're referring to the incentives that someone might request for parking, and then additional incentives, are the parking incentives something that someone could get, and then the incentives that they're entitled to would be on top of that, or are the parking incentives part of the number of incentives that they could request?
So the parking incentive that's listed in the ordinance is included in that up to 4 that they could be requesting, although the density bonus law itself says that cities can't apply parking ratios up of more than a certain amount to density bonus eligible projects. So the reduction in parking would be on top of what is already in state law.
So that basically under the state law, the parking one could look to the state law as the minimums, and then that wouldn't count as an incentive. But they could also ask for the incentive under the city, or what does that mean exactly?
So they could ask for a reduction consistent with state law, and then on top of that state reduction, they could go further with the incentive that is in our ordinance.
Okay, so the parking reduction, so if they do something different from state law, then it would count as an incentive, or if they do something that is, but if they do something that's just consistent with state law, then they would have however many that they're entitled to on top of that.
If they go beyond state law, it would be an incentive, yes.
Okay. I don't know that is totally clear from that that provision, and I just suggest maybe between now and assuming this gets to city council, just trying to see if there's a way to clarify that language, and maybe afterwards I'll email and suggest some language. I didn't have a chance to do that beforehand. And then I think that is all of the questions that I've got. So thank you for answering all of those, all of that.
No problem, and thank you as well.
So I see that there's a raised hand from Ruth Cueto.
Hi, Commissioner Ballard. I just wanted to add to Commissioner Griswold's questions that we are going to come up with a a density bonus application, and we'll make sure to clarify that there's parking incentives under the state density bonus law, but if applicants want to take advantage of any of the city incentives, that's a separate process. So we're working to provide more of that informational, like applications and additional supplemental information on our website soon.
Great. All right. Seeing no further raised hands, I'm going to go ahead and I guess I do see. All right. Commissioner Allen.
I was just going to move staff recommendation on item 4D.
Second.
Great. There's a motion and second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Anyone want to speak to their motion? No hands are being raised. So I'll go ahead and I'll go through the roll call. I'm going to try to do this a little more quickly, and I'm reading names alphabetically, so you can be prepared to unmute yourself. So Commissioner Allen.
A for I.
Commissioner Bonilla. Is he giving a thumbs up?
Aye, he did it in chat.
All right. Commissioner Caballero.
Aye.
Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliverio.
Aye.
And Commissioner Yasny.
Aye.
And I for myself as well. So motion passes. And with that, I guess we will go ahead and go on to item 4E. Staff have a presentation?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Angela Wang, the Planning Project Manager with Planning, Building, and Co-Enforcement. This is a conditional use permit to allow the conversion of the service bay portion of an existing gas station building to expand the existing convenience store from 770 square feet to 2,163 square feet, and to allow the off-sale of beer and wine, and also with the exterior changes to the existing building on a 0.71 gross acre site. The project site is located on the east side of Lincoln Avenue, between Curtin Avenue and Pasco Avenue. The site is surrounded by single-family residences to the east, auto service and single-family residences to the north across Curtin Avenue, and a 76 gas station, which is currently not in operation, to the northwest diagonally across the Lincoln Avenue and Curtin Avenue intersection, and a commercial store to the west across Lincoln Avenue and office to the south across Pasco Avenue. And after the conversion, the convenience store will have 1,178 square feet of the sales area, and the beer and wine will be stored in a cooler that will occupy approximately 21 square feet of the floor area, or 1.8% of the sales area. Per the police memo, the reported crime statistics in this area are not over the 20% crime index. Hence, the location is not considered unduly concentrated, and the police is neutral to the proposal. The current a community meeting was held on November 18, 2019. Approximately 10 community members attended the meeting. The project scope originally included 24-hour use, and the major concerns from the community are the late-night operation with off-sale of alcohol and its impacts to the neighborhood with regards to safety, noise, and nuisance. And after the community meeting and discussion with staff, the applicant decided not to pursue the 24-hour use on the project site and changed the operation hours to 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. Daily. The project conditions number 17 to 16 regarding the anti-graffiti and anti-litter will ensure the property be maintained and the operation of the facility will not create negative impacts to the surrounding properties. The project is consistent with the general plan neighborhood community commercial land use designation and conforms with the development standards of the commercial pedestrian zoning district. The project is exempt from CEQA per CEQA guidelines section 15061B3. So staff recommend the Planning Commission adopt the resolution to approve the project. This concludes staff report.
All righty, thank you, staff. So with that, I'm looking to see if anyone has a raised hand. And I see one from Commissioner Oliverio.
Yeah, motion to move the staff recommendation.
There's a motion to move. Is there a second?
Excuse me, this is Vera. You need to ask if there are any public comments on this item.
Thank you, Vera. So Alex, do we have any public comments on this?
Yes, we do. We have 4
I believe there are a few public comments.
Sorry, there was 4 members of the public who requested to speak prior to this meeting, and it looks like we have 5 hands raised in Zoom. So we'll go first through the members who identified that they wanted to speak before. We will have a timer set up on the screen, and our first speaker will be Anji Shell. So before we start your time, Anji, can you confirm that you're able to speak?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
This is Sylvia Doe. I just wanted to confirm that the applicant would have the opportunity to have their 5 minutes as well.
Pardon me?
Thank you, Sylvia. And thanks to everybody tuning in. We're figuring this out as we go. So I want to ask, does the applicant want to make a presentation or a comment? And they would have up to 5 minutes.
It does look like the applicant would like to. Excuse me, give me 1 second. So Gary, can you confirm that you have the ability to speak? Gary? Gary, we can't hear you. In lieu and Gary, Angela, there's other speakers from the applicant team. I believe, Angela, if you
Yes.
can confirm.
Yes, it's Sergio, but I don't see a hand raised from him, so I'm not sure if he is prepared to speak.
Sergio, do you have the ability to speak?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Great. I've got a little bit of an echo here, and I wasn't prepared to speak. I was hoping Gary would, but I can go into it. Just wanted to mention that we did work with staff very close to design a project that would complement the community. This is an unused auto service bay. It's been vacant, or the service bay portion of it, that is, has been vacant for 7-8 years or so, maybe longer. I'm not exactly sure of the timing on that. So we would just like to make some improvements at the convenience store that we have and take advantage of the unused area in the existing building to give more of a full service offering that we have at our typical convenience store locations. So we've been working with staff to design the project to comply with the regulations. We also had a community outreach meeting and it had some members of the local residents come out. We heard all their concerns and once again worked with staff to address those concerns. And I hope that we've designed a project that everybody can be proud to have in their community. As Angela mentioned, we did remove the request for 24-hour operations because we did hear those concerns from the community. So the existing hours are from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. We were just asking to extend that a couple hours from 6 a.m. to midnight. And Angela, I don't know if she was able to share on the screen the plans that we presented. I didn't see it on the Zoom meeting on my end, but I hope that planning commissioners did have an opportunity to review that. Other than that, I think we'll just be here to answer any questions, address any concerns that we may have. I did receive a letter with 8 or 9 comments just this afternoon. So I'm going through our notes to address those, and hopefully Gary can be on the line as well to address some of the design items for this. I think that's all I really had to say.
Great. So thank you so much, Alex. I think then we'll go ahead and go to public comment.
Yes, thank you. So apologies about missing the applicant earlier. So again, our first speaker requesting to speak prior to the meeting was Anji Xiao. So Anji, apologies. Can we confirm that you have the ability to speak?
Yes, I do.
Please go ahead.
Well, first of all, it's not acceptable that the station still wants to stay open until midnight. 10 o'clock, everything else around here closes up anyway. Then there is the parking problem. There is not enough parking for the station, which will impact me directly because I'm right next to the gas station where there is a very dilapidated wooden fence that divides their property from mine, and I would like to ask for a noise-reducing fence and not in wood like Angela Wang recommended this afternoon when she called me. And the time is just too far with midnight, and the parking problem is terrible. And serving alcohol or dispensing alcohol would be another big concern because there are vagrants many times during the night, and other times in back of the gas station, there are cars parked with loud music that my house reverberates. And that is not right. That needs to be addressed, and it has not been addressed so far as I'm concerned and from what I can see. And to have the meeting at this time without any other information is really not fair, especially not with the virus that we're experiencing right now.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker will be Suzanne Hilo. Suzanne, do you have the ability to speak?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please begin.
So first off, I've asked for this to be this proceeding to be deferred. There are a number of people in who are relevant and have comments that are not savvy in internet use, Zoom or anything. You know, they didn't have the phone number even to call in because that wasn't given to them. They had a phone number from a postcard, you know, at a time when the pandemic was nowhere to be heard of. I even thought City Hall was shut down. I thought everything was shut down. And seeing as this is your first night using Zoom and this process, I think it's absolutely critical that you defer this so that I can go to neighbors and type up statements so they can get their issues on the record. Aside from that, I have similar concerns. I live across the street from the station. Parking, there is no parking at the station. So I'm worried about the parking. The noise is terrible. And we brought all of this up at the meeting. It's absolutely not acceptable for them to be open till midnight. They should remain with the same hours. We do not want the sale of alcohol on the premises. And we want them to secure that back area so that vagrants don't just sleep in their cars overnight and disturb neighboring residents. So they need to secure the back area. And we do really need soundproof fencing, not only along where the neighbors are to the rear, but also on Pasco. So I think that, and I guess the trash bins, they need to be stored properly. I think that's pretty much all in writing. I sent that all to you, so you have it on the record.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Anna Maria Russo. Anna, do you have the ability to speak?
I do. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do. It sounds like there's an echo. You might have multiple devices.
Yes, I had it on my phone as well. I just wanted to make sure that I could hear. I'm voicing the same concerns as Suzanne and Angie. I have lived in this neighborhood for over 40 years. In that 40 years, there has been no reason to increase the hours, sell the sale of alcohol at all. There is, if someone wants to buy alcohol, there is a liquor store right across the street. There's no reason for the gas station to have to sell alcohol. I agree with them that it is designed poorly. You have a whole back area where homeless and vagrants and everybody else sleep and stay. It needs to be cleaned up. It needs to, there's no reason to be open till midnight. It's been open till 10 o'clock. The 40 years that I've been here, it's worked just fine. I don't understand why we have to inconvenience a whole group of people, especially a neighbor with small children, for the benefit of 2 hours. Not necessary. And I agree with Suzanne that we need to defer this meeting and this agenda point until a later date when more of our neighbors can speak up. This is unacceptable that we have so little neighborhood involvement because none of us have the ability to input. So that is me, and I'm hoping that you will respond to that in a positive way.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Beth Herner. Beth, it sounds like you have multiple devices, perhaps?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, but we'll see that.
Okay, yes, I have sent you 2 letters today already, and email. So everything's been said. My most important point is the liquor store across the street already exists. They've been there for years. Why do we take away their living? I don't know. There's a liquor store in Malone in Lincoln. We don't need any more liquor stores. And otherwise, I think I posted everything in my letter already today. And 10 o'clock again, it's late enough. This is Willow Glen. Downtown Willow Glen closes up at 10. Why do we want to have to stay open until midnight? It's just not right. And as I was there, I did not know until hours ago we were having this meeting. So I think it should be deferred for others also. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. That concludes everyone who requested to speak prior to this meeting. We will then proceed to those who have requested to speak during the meeting by raising their hand in the order that they requested to speak. The first individual is June. June, do you have the ability to speak? June? June, try one more time. All right, we'll try to go back in a minute. The next individual was Haiti Gonzales. Haiti, do you have the ability to speak?
Yes, hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Perfect, thank you. I'm here with my husband Juan, and we have 3 small children. We live right next to the Chevron gas station, so we're very concerned with this new modification they want to do. I did submit a request to deny the 24-hour service. And I think with my neighbors, the 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is preferred for those hours to remain. The second part is our fence that we share is it's falling apart. And so we would definitely need some kind of noise canceling type of wall and something to help with the lighting. That's there all night.
Comes into our backyard.
It definitely comes into our backyard, and like I said, our small children go to school, so that's really important to us, the safety for us and for them. Therefore, that takes me to the third point, which is please do not sell alcohol. We do not want to attract the wrong type of people into our family type Willow Glen neighborhood. And also we would like for the parking situation to be considered. Like my neighbor said, there's definitely no parking other than the spaces for the gas pumps. So we do not want to see any overflow of cars coming into our property or creating issues.
And there's cars already coming right in the backyard late at night. What would it go for 2 seconds?
And like my neighbor said, please consider bringing this up again so that you're able to hear more from our other neighbors who were not able to attend today.
Thank you. The next speaker is Janine Spencer. Do you have the ability to speak?
Yes, I can speak.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yes. I'm also a neighbor close by. I live next door to Heidi, who just spoke, and I support everything everyone had already said. Number one, that wall. I've been here for over 12 years. That wall between the 2 homes and the gas station has been falling down. Horrendous, not even safe when you have children. And I do walk my dog around that area. I see graffiti in the very back of the gas station, the back of the dumpster all the time. And I agree, there are people that hang out back there during the day and at night. My concern also is selling liquor. I'm very opposed to liquor and being sold. And I think the 6 to 10 is fine. Parking is horrendous. I just want to say also, people have been living here for a long time, and it's a very nice neighborhood. Across the street, we have people living in the 1938 homes on Kurtner, and they've had those homes for a very long time. Probably my big concern is someone coming along deciding to change what's existing. I think expanding the store is fine, but no alcohol, no late hours, and I do agree that more vagrant people will be attracted to that gas station. So please try and be considerate of our area where we live and where these little children are growing up. And I would like to have it be extended because there are many neighbors down the street that did not get a chance. And across the street, they didn't get a chance to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Beth in the number 1. Beth, do you have the ability to speak? Beth?
I talked to you.
I believe that might be the same Beth. We'll go to June, who previously was having some technical issues. June, do you have the ability to speak? June, we still can't hear you. All right, I believe that without the ability to hear June, I believe that concludes all members of the public who requested to speak.
Thank you. So I will go ahead and let's see, do I close the public hearing and invite the applicant to respond or make another 5-minute presentation?
Defer to council.
Go ahead and close the public hearing after you invite the applicant to speak for another 5 minutes.
All right, would the applicant like to speak for another 5 minutes?
Gary, can you speak now? Sergio, do you have the ability to speak?
Yeah, I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Sorry, everybody's messaging me over here to speak. Angela, I don't know, are you able to share the site plan? I'll give you a chance to try and pull that up while I adjust some of the comments that I jotted down.
Yeah, let me try to open the drawing. Just give me a moment.
Thank you. One of the items that came up was calling the convenience stores a liquor store. It's really not a liquor store. There's a distinction there. There's no hard alcohol being sold. It's only beer and wine, which is consistent with Chevron's convenience stores pretty much throughout. There's roughly about 300 company-owned convenience stores or gas stations as a whole with convenience stores. And I just wanted to point out this is a Chevron company-owned, company-operated location. It's not a retailer, so you're going to have all of the highest corporate standards that Chevron has with all of the training of their staff. They also have a secret shopper program where they go in and make sure that all of the staff are abiding by all the regulations. We also comply with the state mandated training for all of the employees that are selling any age restricted items with the WE card for IDing them for tobacco sales, alcohol, and anything else that might be age restricted. So just wanted to point that out. It's beer and wine only, not a full liquor store, and there's no consumption allowed on site. One of the other items regarding the noise, it's the convenience store is going to be interior. It's not going to operate outdoors. It's a lot less noisy than operating the service bay with automobile repairs, tires being replaced, and all those impact tools that are used in a auto service bay. So I think having a convenience store would be much less disruptive and noisy than reopening the auto service bay. The noise fence that was addressed that did come up during the community hearing that we had a couple months ago. I believe that's more of a zoning item because we're restricted on the height of the fence that we could have within a certain setback from the street. So we did add some additional fencing for screening. And we also made some, we did prepare a noise study, submitted that to staff, got comments back, and we did add some soundproofing to the HVAC equipment outside to mitigate those items there. The fence that is falling down, I think that's something that we can work with the residents to make some repairs. We've also changed the landscape plan to use a different type of irrigation so there's no water overspray to the fence, so it does last longer, or we can go with a different type of fence other than wood. That's something that we'd be willing to work with city staff as well as those residents to see what would work best in that area. And as far as any trespassers or transients parking behind or anywhere on the site, I just wanted to mention that I did bring up during the community meeting that if we were allowed to operate 24 hours, we would have staff there 24 hours that could help mitigate those concerns. Because if the convenience store, the gas station are open and operating 24 hours and we have staff there, people are going to be less likely to park on site overnight, whatever that issue might be. But we did hear the residents' concerns and decided the residents don't want us to be open 24 hours. So that's why we pulled it back to midnight, which I think at least those 2 hours would again help with people deciding to park there overnight or do whatever it is they're gonna do on the site. Which actually also brings up the item about parking. We do comply with the parking regulations here. There's 15 stalls required, and we do have 15 parking locations shown on the site plan there.
Thank you, Sergio. That's the end of the 5 minutes.
Perfect.
So at this point, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask staff if they wanted to respond to any of the public comment.
Yes, this is Patrick Kelly, Supervising Planner, Planning, Building, Code Enforcement. Just going through the items that were raised by multiple people. One was the issue of the convenience store being open up to midnight. Per the municipal code, they are allowed by right to be open that late and only require a conditional use permit if they want to operate between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. So right now, they are currently open on Saturdays and Sundays until midnight and during the week until 10. So this would add those hours. But in any case, the point is that they're allowed by right to do that. Parking, I think the applicant covered. They do have 15 spaces and 15 are required. And those spaces do include the pump island spaces. They count as parking spaces. The fence at the rear of the site is indicated on the site plan to be repaired by the applicant. So that is part of the project. The only noise generation of the site that's actually part of the project is the installation of air conditioning compressors, replacement compressors at the back of the building. and those are enclosed by a solid masonry wall and have, as a result, a very, very low noise generation at the fence area, like 45 decibels, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually like about the sound of a dishwasher, and from you know, a quiet dishwasher, so it should not penetrate past the fence. Let's see. As far as the sale of alcoholic beverages, I think the staff report outlines the findings that are required to be considered by the commission. One being that if there are more than 4 outlets within 500 feet of the site, then there are special considerations for that, but there are only 2, and that was the aforementioned liquor store that's across the street. And if the site is within 150 feet of residences, that the use has to be located so that the use doesn't interfere with the residences, like the activity areas. But the site, that's measured from the entrance of the facility to the residential property line in a walking path, and so the site does not qualify as being within 150 feet of a residence. And as far as other sensitive uses, just the park, Willow, I think it's Lincoln Glen Park. I think that's what it, yeah, Lincoln Glen Park is 300 feet to the west of the site. So, but again, this use is, you know, sort of not oriented in a way that would impact the park. So with that, I think all the items are covered, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Thank you. I am seeing, well, I guess I'll just ask, is that all in terms of staff's responses?
Yes, no further comments. No further comments from staff.
Great, thank you. So I see that Commissioner Griswold has her hand raised. So Commissioner Griswold.
Thank you. I've only got one question. A lot of the questions were answered, and particularly the one about the by right operation until 12 a.m. But the one remaining question I have is about lighting spillover and whether that has been addressed or is addressed somewhere.
Yes, there's no new lighting proposed with the project. So any lighting that's there right now is existing, and perhaps we could allow the applicant to address that. You know, maybe with some potential for some lighting to be modified, but I'd like to defer to the applicant.
Can you hear me? Great. I take that as a yes because I can hear myself in the echo.
Chair, that was Sergio, the applicant, speaking. Do we have a question for the applicant team?
So I'm assuming that the applicant was responding to staff saying that perhaps the applicant could address that. I'm not clear if staff meant further in the process or offline, or if staff was suggesting that the applicant address that issue right now. And then if it is right now, I would seek Vera's advice on, do we need to open up the public hearing, or what needs to be said to make that happen?
Just go ahead and if they want to speak to the question from the commissioner, then please allow them to.
Great. And Patrick, in your comment, was that your intent? You wanted the applicant to address that issue real time?
Yes, that was the intent.
Okay, great. Sergio, you're up.
Great, thank you. I think we are willing to work with staff on the lighting. As staff mentioned, we hadn't received any comments on the lighting, so we did not make any revisions to it. but it is something that we have addressed on other projects by changing the wall packs on the rear of the building or taking a look at the parking lot lights. We do have some regulations that we do have to keep as far as the amount of lighting, but absolutely that is something that we can work with staff to help mitigate any spillage of lighting onto the residents.
Commissioner Griswold, did you have anything further?
No, nothing further.
Great, then I'm going to go ahead and move on to, let's see, I see that both Commissioner Oliverio and Vera have their hands up, so I'll just take them in order. Commissioner Oliverio.
Hi. So as Planning Commission, we make recommendations within the rules that are set up, and if they abide by those rules, they get planning staff recommendation, and we recommend. Within the last 12 months, I believe we've approved 4 of these similar type of applications in other council districts. So ultimately, if it fits the city's ordinances, then I believe that is an item that we are to approve. If planning staff can let me know, is the city council going to vote on this, or is this the final stop in the process?
This is the final stop in the process.
Okay.
Unless appealed.
Okay, so any of the people on that are residents, they can appeal this and have it be heard by the city council.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Vera, I see that your hand is up. Did you want to make a comment?
I did, only that if the intent is to satisfy the lighting issue, there should be a condition of approval that is added to the CUP, to the permit, asking that they address the lighting spillover onto adjacent property. And
Yes,
I would leave it, pardon me?
Sorry,
I would leave it to staff to propose language. I am unable right now to open the CUP on my computer for some reason for this item. Every other item I can get it, but not on this one. So I would ask staff to deal with that if they're able, but we could put in a broader provision basically saying that the applicant will work with staff to resolve the issue of lighting spillover at wherever that is on the property.
Yes, so staff would propose this condition. Prior to issuance of building permits for the project, the applicant shall obtain a permit adjustment to modify existing lighting on the site to minimize any existing spillover and glare to the greatest extent feasible to the satisfaction of the director of planning.
That sounds good.
All right, with that, I'm not seeing any hands up, and I want to go ahead and entertain a motion. Commissioner Allen.
Yeah, I'll move staff's recommendation.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Allen and second by Commissioner Caballero. Would the maker of the motion like to speak to their motion?
No, that'll be fine. Thank you.
And would the seconder like to speak to their second?
No, thank you.
Is there any, let's see, I'm sorry, I'm getting out of the habit of being real time here. I see some hands up. Commissioner Oliverio.
I do not. I apologize.
All right. I see Commissioner Caballero, your hand's up. All right. We're all learning. We're fumbling through this as guinea pigs together.
And pardon me, does the motion include the addition for the lighting that was read into the record by Mr. Kelly?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Oliverio, I'm seeing your hand up. Did you want to make a comment? right.
No, I apologize. I hit the icon twice.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor. I'll go ahead and do the roll call again, alphabetical. Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Bonilla.
Aye.
Hey, yay.
I know, right?
Congratulations. Commissioner
But
Caballero.
Aye.
Commissioner Griswold.
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Oliverio.
Aye.
Commissioner Yesney.
Aye.
And Commissioner Ballard is an aye as well. So that motion passes unanimously. Thank you all, and we will go on to the next agenda item. So this is agenda item number 5A, and I will go ahead and kick this over to staff for a staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Perna Ankola with the Policy and Ordinance Team, Planning Department. The item before you is an amendment to Title 20 Zoning Code to make new provisions to allow tiny home on wheels as a type of accessory dwelling unit, also commonly known as ADU. I'm opening up the presentation in just a minute. Thank you, Madam Chair. On December 17, 2019, City Council directed staff to report back with code amendments to legalize portable living units or PLUs. The proposed amendment to Part 4.5 of Chapter 20.30 residential zoning districts will include updates to allow PLUs, commonly referred to as tiny homes on wheels, be used as an ADU to facilitate lowered cost of construction, installation, and maintenance. The proposed updates are consistent with provisions incorporated by other cities within the state to further diversify affordable and accessible housing options. The characteristics that distinguish tiny home on wheels is that it is a self-contained living unit licensed and registered by DMV. It is not required to conform to building code, but shall meet requirements of American National Standards Institute, NSI 119.5, or National Fire Protection Association, NFPA 1192, and will be certified by a third-party inspector. The maximum area requirement varies between 150 to 400 square feet and is required to have the appearance of a conventional building. It is towable but cannot move under its own power. Development standards for tiny homes on wheels are similar to current ADU standards and further include minimum 4 feet setback from the rear and side property lines for fire safety, 10 feet from the corner property line, and a minimum setback of 45 feet from the front property line. Staff recommends allowing one detached tiny home on wheels on single-family lots in conjunction with an attached ADU or JADU, but the lot cannot contain another detached ADU. This new concept is being explored statewide, and potential issues will be evaluated to determine the possibility of including two-family and multifamily properties at a future date. Tiny home on wheels is required to maintain a 6 feet distance requirement from the primary dwelling. Undercarriage is required to be hidden from view from the public right-of-way, and the unit is typically placed on a paved surface using leveling and support jacks to prevent movement. Staff recommends incorporating newer paving surfaces, including asphaltic paving, cement paving, or even alternative paving materials such as porous concrete, permeable pavers, or decomposed granite. No additional parking shall be required for the tiny home on wheels, and any displaced parking is not required to be replaced, consistent with the ADU regulations. Although the regulations will be primarily addressed through DMV registration and compliance with ANSI or NFPA requirements, building permits that would be required for permitting this would be sewer, water, or electricity connections, and which are primarily limited to electrical and plumbing permits. The proposed update will incorporate new provisions for the tiny home on wheels to resemble the conventional building appearance of an ADU and cannot exceed a maximum height of 16 feet. Attendees were supportive of the proposed updates at the community meeting conducted on February 13th, in addition to 3 letters of support from stakeholders. The City Council hearing for this item schedules on April 15, 2020. This concludes the staff presentation, and staff is available for additional questions.
All right. Sorry, taking me a moment to work the technology there. So thank you so much. I'm going to ask Alex if there are, we can go ahead and open the public hearing if there's anyone who has indicated that they want to speak to this item.
Yes, we've had one member of the public who would like to speak prior to the meeting. Just one second, I apologize. That first member of the public will be Dorsey Moore. Dorsey, do you have the ability to speak?
Yes, I do.
Please go ahead.
Sound check. Sounds good. All right. Good. Good evening, Chairwoman Ballard, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Dorsey Moore. I'm the CEO of the San Jose Conservation Corps and Charter School. And I'm here today to advocate for the adoption of the zoning code adjustment for the tiny homes on wheels. We're advocating for tiny homes on wheels, which we also call portable dwelling units, for several reasons. One is the low cost. They can be constructed for a fraction of the cost of traditional affordable housing units. In our area, an average cost of an affordable housing unit is closer to $650,000 versus around $50,000 to $75,000 for a portable dwelling unit. And also the tiny homes on wheels can be also a fraction of the cost of a typical accessory dwelling unit, which in our areas are between $200,000 and $250,000 a unit. They can be constructed quickly and with quality. They meet local building codes and also state vehicle codes. They have a flexible model. You can place them in residential backyards or also on public lands. And they can also be kept as a portable unit or converted to a permanent ADU. They can be rented at below market rate while enabling low-income homeowners to receive rental income through a backyard lease model. They promote independent living. They have a full set of amenities from a full bathroom, kitchen, sleeping area, and living space. These are very much distinct from the bridge housing community sleeping cabins in that way. And legalizing tiny homes on wheels will create an entirely new class of affordable housing that will help fill in the missing middle and accelerate the construction of affordable housing. And so with that, I'd really like to thank and acknowledge the planning staff for their great work in developing these zoning code amendments very quickly and also during a very busy season, and really appreciate the time and effort of the planning staff and of the commission. So with that, I'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. There was no other members of the public who requested to speak before. No attendees on the Zoom call have raised their hand, and nobody has contacted us during the meeting to speak. So with that, there's no more members of the public for comment.
Thank you, Alex. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing then and ask staff if they have anything else to add.
No additional comments at this time, Commissioner. Thank you.
Great. I see one hand raised from my fellow commissioners, and that is Commissioner Oliverio.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a motion to move the staff recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second, from Commissioner Allen.
Yep. But first and a second, Commissioner Oliverio, would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Commissioner Allen, would you like to say your
Yeah, sorry, I'm coming through okay. Just wanted to thank staff for their work on this project and on this proposal and this policy. I do want to disclose that I did get a chance to go out to the Conservation Corps, and Mr. Moore and his staff gave me a tour of some of the prototypes for these tiny homes on wheels. I thought it was a fantastic project. They're absolutely fabulous facilities that they're building, and it's a great opportunity to provide more housing in our city. So I'm fully in favor of this. And again, I thank them for being so diligent, and Dorsey for being so diligent in moving this forward with staff, and thank staff and the council for making it happen.
Great. I'm not seeing any further hands, and I just want to add my underscore what Commissioner Allen said. When I was reading the staff report, I was a little bit baffled by what this THOW housing was, THOW housing, and after reading it, I found that it's really exciting, and think that there are some great opportunities. So thanks to staff, thanks whoever brought this idea up. It seems like a good one. So with that, I will go ahead and do the vote. Commissioner Allen.
That's an aye.
Commissioner Bonilla.
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero.
Aye.
Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliverio.
Aye.
Commissioner Yasny.
Aye.
And I'm in the aye camp as well. So motion passes unanimously. So thank you, everybody. We'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, which is referrals and counsel from boards, commissions, or other agencies. Item 6, it says there's nothing here. So on down to agenda item number 7, good and welfare. Is there a report from City Council? Staff, is there a yes or a no that there's a report from City Council?
Hello, this is Rosalind Huey, Director of Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. Thank you, Chair. The City Council did meet yesterday. I have just one item to report on. The Planning Division and Housing Department presented the annual report for the city's housing element that's in the general plan. The annual report is due each year to the Department of Housing and Community Development by April 1st. And the City Council did approve that report, and staff will be transmitting that to the state. Thank you.
Thank you to staff, to Rosalind. So moving on to 7B, review and approve action minutes. Is there, let's see, let me see if there's any hands. Sorry, switching screens here. We have a hand up by Commissioner Oliverio.
Motion to approve the action minutes and a question for the planning director after the vote.
All right, is there a second? Sorry, raise your hand if you'd like to second that motion. Commissioner Caballero.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes in a second. If there's no further discussion on the item, I'm going to go ahead and go through the roll call. Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Bonilla.
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero.
Aye.
Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliverio.
Aye.
Commissioner Yasny.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So motion passes. And Commissioner Oliverio, you said that you had a question for staff.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I believe we have a commission meeting April 8th, but I'm curious if the current situation is, going through the months of May and June. Is the entitlement process still moving on existing applications and new applications?
Thank you, Commissioner. Rosalind Huey again. Staff is, yes, continuing to process entitlement applications. I will note that all members of the Planning Division are working remotely. There are no staff in City Hall, but they are processing applications. So as we do have items that have been agendized and actually public notices sent out, we intend to continue to conduct Planning Commission meetings. Obviously, the situation is rapidly changing, so we will be sure to keep the Planning Commission informed. Currently, I think we are on track to meet for the next meeting.
And if I may, Chair, one follow-up question. Previously canceled community meetings regarding new applications, will those be moved to web meetings?
We have not determined that yet. Currently, to make sure the city is in compliance with the county order, we have currently canceled all currently scheduled community meetings. And we're going to be assessing if we will have the capability and actually will be in alignment with any future orders from the state or county to actually conduct community meetings by Zoom or any other platforms.
Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. I'm toggling back and forth between some different screens here, so apologies for the delay. I'm checking here to make sure we don't have any hands raised. We don't. So let's go to the next item, which is formation of subcommittees and stuff. Is there anything from staff on this item?
No items, Chair.
Great. Moving on then to 7D, commission calendar and study sessions. Anything you wanted to add here, Rosalind?
No items to add. Thank you, Chair.
And then let me just toggle back, make sure we don't have any hands up. Looks like we don't. Then last item is anything for the public record.
Chair Ballard, can I just say that Commissioner Oliverio has one cute cat?
I haven't seen any cat in the screen, and mine is meowing behind me here. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but before we close, I just want to say a big thank you to staff. I know that, oh, goodness. This is interesting times. We get to show off our cats via Planning Commission hearings, but I just wanted to give a big thanks to staff for what appears to me to be a very quick pivot and a good, thorough analysis and vetting of the types of systems that we can use to do this. So, and you know, we're fumbling through it, and I think we did a good job. So, thank you.
Agreed.
All right, then I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thanks, you all.
Good night.